So we talked about it a little bit, but let's talk about these deputy gangs. Could you please explain to people who are not familiar with the deputy gangs, what are they?
Well, here in Los Angeles, there are the sheriffs. You know, we have the sheriffs run some of our law enforcement, and we have the LAPD who run some of our law enforcement. Depends on what part of the city, what part of the town that you're living in. Now, the sheriffs have different sectors, if you want to say. So you have the LASD sheriffs, and you have the Compton sheriffs, and both of these sectors have a very high Latino population inside, and they have started some deputy gangs inside of these law enforcement agencies. And one of them, the East LA, what they call it,
Banditos.
yeah, the
The
East LA
Bandito.
Banditos. So it's
Mhm.
ELA. The East LA Banditos is one of the major gangs, and that's East LA. And in Compton, you have the Executioners, and those are the two major main gangs that we talk about. They said there's a lot of like other little small ones in there. And the current sheriff, Villanueva, who I feel like is part of one of the gangs, which is why he continues to deny it. He always denies it. And then when he does, it's weird because he'll say there is no gangs, then he'll say we're going to get rid of the gangs. And then he'll say there is no gangs, and then he'll say they're not really gangs, they're kind of like social clubs. Like what? What kind of social club do you have inside of the sheriff's department? Like that don't even make no sense. But these guys have tattoos. They have figured out ways to usurp power within these law enforcement agencies. They had a hearing. There was a hearing held in front of the commission in LA, and the deputy gangs. It's not so. It's not just that they probably do racist, commit racist crimes and racial discrimination while they're out, especially against Black folks. They have been doing things that actually affect us as a community, like the tax-paying Americans as a community. There was a deputy named Larry A. Waldy who testified that sheriff gangs are still operating, still affecting public safety. Villanueva lied when he said he got rid of a bunch of the top guys over the deputy gangs. What actually happened was he got rid of the guys who were being whistleblowers over the deputy gangs. He got rid and shipped them out to different agencies and moved them around. The guys who were, giving people grief about it. But it's like I said, it's affecting public safety. Like while in the Compton station, the executioners controlled overtime. So they was only giving overtime to other people who were part of the executioners crew. And then that gave them access to the best assignments. And then they celebrated their street violence. Like it was like, so this goes to culture. It was a part of the culture thing. And when Sheriff, when Waldy wouldn't put one of the executioners in charge of scheduling, they ordered a week-long work slowdown on purpose. That you mean you immediately saw a spike in violent crime in our neighborhoods because they basically were like, you're not going to put us in control. We're not going to do our jobs. And it's like they're so bold. Somebody at the sheriff office tried to tell internal affairs, not to mention the executioners or the banditos, when it came to investigations of like a couple of police on police shootings and police on police beatings. And Vera testified. Vera, who actually ran against Villanueva, Vera testified that Villanueva hasn't cleaned up anything and hasn't done anything. So that's where we're at on the LA deputy gangs. But it's getting more and more press. It's getting harder and harder for them to hide. As you know, once it's something like this gets public and continues to go public, you have people now. We got actual citizens who have been showing up at the hearings, actual citizens who've been showing up and speaking and talking on their experience with the deputy gangs and talk. So, like I said earlier, we got to keep coming out and applying that pressure to let them know that, this is not okay.
Let's embark on the Ark Republic to hear current news that's published. More than gossip and chatter, covering current affairs that matter. We talk issues with professional views, all keeping you in queue. We wanted a higher vibe for these days and times, to free the voices and minds, reporting the sign of the times, so all can build. Let's shine, yeah.
From what I understand, and I need to still read more into it, deputy gangs or gangs within the department, law enforcement, because I don't want to, I want to remove deputy. Let's just say gangs. Let's
Gangs,
up
yeah.
bangers in the department.
Yeah, pretty
It
much.
starts with white people. It starts with white cops. That's from what it is I understand. And then as more Latino cops, and you know, California is, if not already, it's predominantly Latino, right? So this is hence why you have that as well. There's a lot of people don't want to admit it, but there's a lot of conversation and alliances between the legitimate world and the underworld, right? I mean, we learned that in all those Don Corleone movies, right?
Right.
You got to have somebody who's on the legitimate side in order to make sure that the dirty side or the underworld side can maintain its power.
Absolutely.
You know, and the person who's on the legitimate side is the puppet. They are not the player, which causes concern for somebody like a Villanueva, right?
Yep.
Who has a reputation apparently of being, you know, a weak individual who is not taken seriously, apparently, from what I'm understanding. So this is clearly he's a puppet. There were some also other gangs too mentioned, Gang 998 and the 3000 Boys.
The 3,000, yeah, that's I knew it was more than just the two, but those, I know those two are the main ones and the biggest ones, but there's a few little small subsidiaries going on in there. Yeah.
Yes,
like, it's really a problem. It's really a problem.
It's a huge problem. And so, I mean, I wrote so many notes because there were things I was like, what, this is going on? I did not know that. And what you said, I want to like kind of roll it back to the in-house retaliation.
Yeah.
That goes on to the point where they like shooting, like the
Yeah.
OK corralling each other.
Yeah.
There's another thing,
wild.
right? Another thing, and this is what happened to Cedra Strong, is they called it jacket, place a jacket on them, which is they get pushed out of wherever they leave, but they have this trail of bad reports that follows them. So when they go to the next assignment, people think that they're, oh, this person is bad and blah, blah, blah. So they have this stigma placed on them. And also, this is another thing, when you said when they kill, quite a few of them have to kill somebody in order to be in the gang.
Yeah. Just
right?
like the streets.
Just like the streets, and they get a tattoo after the murder.
Yeah.
That's important. People need to know that they operate. That's why I'm like, the underworld and this overworld, for lack of a better term, are mad serious.
Yeah.
And it's also even transporting, you know, this very Latin American underbelly culture that's coming.
Yeah, like the cartel, how they run the cops and all that stuff. Yeah.
Very, yeah.
Very
so, I mean,
reminiscent of that. Yeah.
Very much so, which is why you just said that. I was like, now this I understand why now Latino members of the community are coming out and saying, yo, these gangs are also terrorizing our communities too. And I wonder if these are Mexican neighborhoods or are these Central American ones? Is there still like this ethnic? Because when you live in LA, you know not to call a Mexican a Guatemalan, a Honduran, El Salvadorian. Don't call nobody Belizean, right? So,
right.
Yeah, so this is why we talk about policing and why it's so important, because we understand, like, a dirty cop, a dirty cop is a hellified dirty cop. It's just not, like Training Day, the depiction of Denzel Washington in Training Day, and unfortunately it was a Black man. It should have been a Latino character. And this is not, but it would have been more kind of like reality realistic towards what was going on. Yeah. But Training Day, I mean, that's nothing compared to what these guys do. And then this is another thing we talked about with the Quincy, the Long Beach person. This ish is inherited.
Yeah.
It goes from father to son, or father to daughter, or mother to son, or whatever. It's generations of these people. And apparently in some, there's a waiting list.
Yeah.
Of lackeys.
Yes. Yes. Bunch of nepotism.
Mm-hmm.
Bunch of good old boys. Bunch of like I've been, almost all the interviews of police officers or ex-officers that I talked to, they always said, like, if I dealt with some cronyism, an older officer dealt with the father. You know what I mean? Like if I
Mhm.
dealt with this at this level, I could talk to an older officer and say, oh yeah, his daddy was just like that.
Mhm.
So this is a built-in culture. This is a, like you said, an inherited culture.
Mhm.
It's scary. It's deep.
And we haven't even gotten to, because if you understand, I think the criminal justice system in America, you know, the law and for police are just one side. You got judges. Who are the judges? Because judges are connected to some of these gangs.
What?
Okay.
Absolutely. They connected to some of the gangs. They connected to some of the officers,
Prosecutors. Yeah.
prosecutors. Like,
Mhm.
oh no, it's
And politicians.
don't trip. Like when you watch shows like The Closer and stuff like that,
Mhm.
and they be talking about how those, you know, judges be entangled with the prosecutors. Like, hey, it's real. It's a real thing.
Yeah. So, you know, to me, in my opinion, the police are that's the easy target. You know what I mean? Like we haven't gotten to the people in those robes, in those nice suits, which is going to be really interesting, which I think is part and parcel as to why what is this dude's name? Holder? What's his name? Eric
Eric
Holder?
Holder, yeah.
Yeah, Eric Holder for the first time gets, you know, knuckles, hands, and feet and toes on him. You know, I really believe it was one of those situations where they said, when you go down, go to the right, they open one door and lock the other and let him get knocked up a little.
Oh yeah, because ain't no way he ain't been touched this whole time. It's been almost what, 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
And 3 years. He ain't been touched, and now he get touched. Yeah,
And
no,
now he gets
up.
yeah. Uh-huh.
Thumbs up.
That was a message. That was a message. That was not an attempt on his life. It was clearly a message. What the message is, I don't know. What we do know in LA is that we kind of stay out of the whole Nipsey Hussle thing because it is a tangled web.
Yeah.
That is definitely woven.
I ain't getting into that.
I ain't getting into that.
I ain't touching that.
At all. So maybe one day when we're old and gray, we could talk about some of the stuff we know that's coming out of that. But right now, we got to keep this keep this train pushing in terms of like what's going on in policing in Los Angeles. Which another thing is that I didn't look at that. Do you know what? This is back to Villanueva. Were there cop organizations that backed him? What were his main endorsements?
That backed Villanueva?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of the cop organizations back then, because he's, you know, he's what they want. He's a status quo. So yeah, a lot of the back, and it's funny, you know, in just having private conversations with you know, Sheriff Eric Strong, he told me like he got couple cool endorsements, but he said there were some times he stepped in a room and he would feel like he was gonna get the endorsement until he actually said, I want to hold police accountable.
Wow.
And he said you could feel the mood in the room change. So
right, because they thought he was you know, one of those Negroes that
was gonna fall in line. Yep. That he was gonna come in and do whatever, kiss the ring and say whatever they wanted to hear, at least to get the endorsement. And he didn't. He gave them the same message that he gave everybody else. And he said, you know, he like, it may have hurt me. He said, but in the long run, I can't.
He sleeps well at night.
Right.
You know, and another thing, I think maybe I'm still learning in this life, but I'm old enough to know that sometimes being the figurehead is not the most important position in the whole formula of equation of the matter. Right. And so I just really believe that, you know, Eric Strong not making it into the runoffs gives him actually more brokering power to really push this agenda of what does it look like to hold police accountable. Now we need to get that. What's that DA's name? What's his name? Gascon. Where he at? Where you at home? Why didn't he endorse Eric Strong?
I don't know. Well, he got his own problems right now.
Oh, I know he got a lot of problems.
Yeah, he got his own problems right now. I think he's trying to stay out of everything.
He got a lot of problems going on, right? But we'll see after whoever wins. We'll see what I think, because of the fight that Gascon has with the police and the DAs. He really hasn't. We really don't know who he is. He's just been fighting just to remain in office at this point.
Nonstop.
Okay. Yeah. So. Boom. Yeah. So we'll keep our eye on that. There is a lot in that because the Olympics are going to be in Los Angeles, I think in 2028.
Yeah.
And if you were in the Olympics in 1984, there was a lot of push and pull with the black and brown communities then. So we will keep our eye on that.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Arc Republic. If you like what you see and you like what you hear, you can actually keep this mothership going. How? You can make a tax-deductible donation in several ways. One, Cash App us at Arc Republic Media. And you can also go on our website, arcrepublic.com/donate. As well, you can also donate to our fiscal sponsor and our sister organization at Black Farmers Index, that is Cash App, or also go onto their website, blackfarmersindex.com. We are two Black women-owned media organizations who share our profits so folk can thrive.